Okay, so I just wanted to quickly speak to some men and women in regards to the man or woman that they have in their lives who they're either deeply in love with, they love, or they have some deep feelings for, right? You know, for quite a few of us, we really do have to accept that they don't like us, much less love us the way that we love them, you know. And the thing is, they show us these signs from day one. And it's not that we don't necessarily see those signs, it's the fact that we refuse to see those signs. We refuse to see what's actually there. Because even though our brain knows what's going on, our heart has already made a decision that, this is the person for us, even though they're not for us. Because anyone who's truly for you, whether you're the man or the woman, they will treat you as if you are of value to them. They won't treat you as an old book that's been left on the shelf for like decades. They pick you up when they feel like, and then they put you down and forget about you. People who genuinely love and care about you and see value in you don't do those things. Don't make the mistake that many people have made, including myself, by wasting vital weeks, months, years of your life, for some people as far as decades, for someone who you're not even an option to them, you just exist. And even then, you'd be lucky they even acknowledge your existence, much less anything else, right? They put everyone else before you. People who will never do even remotely the fraction of the things that you would do for them, not because you're a doormat, it's just because you have a kind and loving heart. And there's nothing wrong with the heart that you have. What's wrong is that you're continuously allowing the wrong person to have access to it, and they don't even value it at all, like not one bit. I wasted, I would say, around close to 7 years. I want to say 7 years of my life, but I would more say 7 years of my emotions, because after that guy I had moved on in terms of I was seeing someone else, but my heart was still with the guy previously, right? So on an emotional level, I didn't move on. Physically, I moved on. Mentally, I was on someone else, but emotionally, my heart was still with the person before. And this person could give two tosses about me. It's like they popped around when they felt like it, and then they disappeared for God knows long. But because I allowed that emotional attachment to grow for this individual, and I allowed my love to grow for this individual, that's what made it so hard for me to completely sever ties. So in that essence, I did waste 7 years. you know 7 years of my life, 7 years of my emotion. You can choose whatever you want to go with that, but I did waste a significant time of my life where, that same time could have been allocated to truly learning to love myself. Definitely could have been allocated to developing a relationship with God, which already happened. Um, after our last fallout, like probably like several months after the incident happened, you know, I finally gave my life to Christ, not because of the situation. It's just that there was just like a series of events that happened outside of that situation, from family problems to my own personal problems. So I literally was at rock bottom. And that situation with that person broke the camel's back, was the straw that broke the camel's back. And 7 months later, as I said, I began my journey with Christ. But it's one of those things that I wasted so many years prior to that, where my relationship with God alone could have been a lot further along, a lot stronger, had I not given all my love to this person. And what's sad is that I have to acknowledge and admit that I basically made that man my God. You know, God wasn't my God. The man I made my God, and I didn't even realize I was doing that. You know, I wasn't worshipping a man in the way that you would think when you think or hear the word worship. But the fact that every day I would make sure I'll send the person a text message to see that they're okay. You know, anything that was wrong with them, I was quick to be there. I always made it known that I will always be there. I will always be there. And unfortunately, when you present yourself that way, people, men and women, don't typically value that. Though we all turn and say that we want that type of man, we want that type of woman, unfortunately, when you do come across someone who is always accessible, who is always available, we tend to dismiss and bypass that person. Why? Because they're always there. We claim we want something, but then we mistreat it when we get it. Makes no sense, but hey ho, that's what it is. I made a lot of mistakes with that person. A lot of mistakes. I made myself way too available. You know, I made myself way too accessible. And the crazy thing about it is that's actually not my character at all. I'm the polar opposite to how I presented myself to this individual. And that wasn't me being fake or portraying myself a particular way to make the person like me or with the intent of making the person like me. That was just the side that they brought out of me, you know, which many people, many men that I've dated in the past were not able to do, you know. And unfortunately, in this case, it worked against me because this wasn't someone who valued that. You know, if you meet a man or woman who brings that side out of you, but they are a person who actually values and respect those type of things, then that's a beautiful thing, to be that person who's present, who's there, who's available, who's loving, who's caring, who's attentive. Those things are amazing. When it's a person who doesn't value those things, that's when it becomes dangerous because you completely lose yourself. You know, that person becomes your world and you can't even fathom existing in this world without them. But the reality is, you can live in this world without them, because think about it, for however long you've been on this earth prior to you knowing them, your life was fine. Or even if it wasn't perfect, you know, you were still going by day, you know. And that's something that we forget. We forget that we did actually have a life before this man, before this woman came into our lives. So why have we why have we conditioned ourselves in believing that now that this person is in our lives, even though really and truly they're busy doing their own thing and couldn't give two toss about us, why have we conditioned ourselves into thinking that now, you know, life will be empty without them? We'll be fine. You know, it took a very long time for me to really accept the person who I was in love with for so long for who they really are. Or should I say, who they're not. Because obviously I had built an image of who they were. And even in my mind knew that was a lie, my heart wasn't ready to accept that. It took me being in the next situation that I was in with another guy after the fact and making the comparison of how he treated me to how the man I was in love with treated me was a complete contrast. Like the last person who I was with, even though it didn't work out because there were things about him that I just simply couldn't ignore in terms of long-term relationship and marriage. It was like a big no-no for me. You know, I can't dismiss the fact that he was very attentive. You know, he actually checked up on me to see that I was okay. You know, if I was feeling some type of way, he would, sorry, computer's going off. He would, you know, he would want to talk to me. He would drive an hour, 2 hours from where he was coming, from where he was, to my house to talk things out, whether it took like 5 minutes or several hours. He was willing to do that. You know, he made an effort to see me. If he couldn't see me every other day, he would try to see me at least once a week, in extreme cases, once every 2 weeks. You know, and this is someone who was busy. He had his own life, his own family, you know, his job, and we didn't live around the corner from each other. We lived like a good 2 hours driving, not public transport, driving. You know, this guy was willing to drive to my house 2 hours each way, obviously pay for petrol, you know, pay congestion charge. We were driving through central London to get to me. He was willing to do that, you know. And then the person who I was in love with, you know, he would never ask. He couldn't even send one text message to ask if I was okay. You know what's actually messed up? In the 7 years that I've known him for, he's only asked me, he's only initiated asking me once how my day was going. How sad and pathetic is that? And I'm not necessarily talking on his part, I'm talking on my part, because I knew that and still chose to give someone like that chance after chance after chance after they clearly showed me time and time and time again that, you know, I was of no value to them. Does that mean that I'm of no value? No, because there's a clear difference between someone not seeing value in someone and then someone themselves not being of value, right? You could be a man, you could be a woman, right? And you have someone in your life and they give two shits about you. You know, they don't even think you're more worthy than a piece of garbage. You meet the next man, next woman, and they think you're greater than gold. So I can accept the fact that he saw no value in me and also know that I am of value, but that is something that I had to see within myself. That was something that I had to truly believe, and that's something that I had to take the initiative to embody, right? Because at the end of the day, that saying goes like, people treat you how you allow them to treat you. Now, granted, how they treat you the first time, you know, that's on them. But then how long they do it for, that's on you. And in my case, it was on me, you know. I can't dictate how he views me, but I can control how long I allowed it to happen. And I allowed it to happen for a very long time. And that's something that I had to take accountability for. You know, I can say God knows what about him, but when it's all said and done, I allowed it to go on as long as I did. And a lot of men, a lot of women who will watch this video, if you're being real with yourself, you know that applies to you too. There are situations, where, again, how the person initially treats you, that's completely on them. But how long you allow that to happen, that is on you. You do have responsibility and accountability there. And the same thing applies to me too in my past situation. You know, I remember the last time me and the guy spoke. It was like just over a year ago actually. And I already knew in my heart that it was done. But I chose to entertain the conversation because I just want that final nail in the coffin to be hammered down so that there's nothing left in me where I have a desire to give him another chance, to fight for anything like that, because I already knew it was done, but I just wanted that final nail to go into the coffin, you know. And there were things that I said, a lot of things I said to him were things that I wanted to say at one point in time where, you know, I was still hopeful, you know, things that I wish I was in a position to say had he treated me differently. Another part of me that said the things that I said was more so because I knew that he expected me to say those things, because for the most part, I never really challenged him on the bullshit and fuckery that he was doing to me. I just let it slide because I wanted to avoid conflict. And I wanted to see if he would continue to, you know, allow me to accept blame where in areas it wasn't actually my fault, you know, and take all accountability of himself. Or would he be like, no, 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 you know, this particular area here, that was all me, that wasn't you. But in true fashion, he did exactly what I expected him to do. You know, I said what I said, me professing my love for him, and he's saying just enough to keep me hooked, but not enough where he's actually expressing how he feels towards me. And when I saw that, yeah, things had nothing had changed, that's when I was truly at peace to be like, you know what, I can truly walk away from the situation and not feel any guilt, not question whether I made a mistake by walking away, not have any doubts in my mind. And I'm at peace at that. That was my closure. He himself never gave me direct closure, but that last interaction was my closure. And this is not necessarily something that I would advise other people to do, especially not after 7 years. I would never tell anyone to wait 7 years to get closure. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. You know, within the first few months, you know, if the person isn't doing anything or showing anything, walk away. That would be my best advice. But I just want to tell men and women who are listening, you know, you have a good heart. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be appreciated. You deserve to be cherished. And walk away from men and women who don't give a fuck about you. Give a damn about yourself. Invest in yourself. Love yourself. And the right man or woman will come into your life.